Hello, hello, hello. Live from the channel. We'll call it what channel number 6. My birthday number. Channel 6 from Michigan. A lot of intel happening. Lots of intel. It's going crazy. When all the news comes out, it comes out. We got a good view count going so far on the first show. Another good first show again. And the Patriot game, it's snowing at the football game. Fourth quarter, 28-16. Patriots. I don't know. I won't want neither one. Houston, I'll be all right. Kim and Lucy, you better take a break from that shoveling. I hope you get out of work tomorrow. Go to work. Yeah, Tim, we had I was telling Ann one video, or was it what I read said captain, and we mentioned you. Paul, Daniel, Carol. We haven't seen Samantha or all the other ones, all the new ones haven't been in. Billy Mean's out. We're gonna have another great show, and I hope I can make it through. So much stuff to get out. 28-16 K Patriots are winning. There's still plenty of time left though. It's snowing. The Bears game is 6:30. Oh, Angie. Sorry about that. I missed you there. You're in between light colors there. Light green. Kimberly and Dragonfly, all the old names. I don't know where they're at. They must be lurking with Greg and Dave and Terry. I hope you got to listen to the first show. A lot of good stuff out. We got more tonight. I had enough energy to make 2 shows tonight, but I don't think I took my medicine here. Chico's chewing on his bones. So that lady, I don't know. It has to be there's a photo from Telegram I'm going to put up here. It was definitely another George Floyd distraction. And Ed, I got one Derek Johnson so far. And we got the X2 report. So we're going to be here for a while, I hope. I'll have Chico take over the show. Okay, we are going to get started. There's another great show out tonight. They're saying this is a big week. There's a clip I want to play. I don't normally play them, but they got something on that another podcast saying like all the rest of them are. So the first two are going to be something to read here. DHS sources says Renee was a professional Antifa. The Federal Reserve, a private-owned Rothschild central bank cartel, charging taxpayers interest on money they printed out of thin air since 1913. No more, Chico. No more. 1913. I'm just going to go ahead and play that one channel I don't normally play. Then we'll start with Derek Johnson, latest new one. Or how these people know they know all this stuff.
Made a mistake on the calendar, and oh my God, I've gotten only 1 billion questions. Could you give us the correct info on what the new calendar will be looking like? Lots of concern, and I did make a mistake. Okay, first of all, but geez Louise.
Well, you mean the 13 months and beginning
Yes.
March?
Yes.
What's
How many days per month? 28 or 30?
It's 28.
Right.
I caught it then too, but
I'm not sure how long. It's a short one.
I'm telling you, I must have had 20 questions with concern, and I did make a mistake. Okay, I said 30, but it's 28. It's in there. It'll all adjust, and you'll all get that information. And I haven't even answered all the questions because I've been so busy, but that was a big concern to people, and it was my mistake. So
no, it's okay. I make mistakes all the time. I'm so fast with trying to get the information out that I say shit backwards. So everybody knows.
Does
that.
anybody
Even
hear
when I'm-
about these two?
Even when I'm
These
texting,
two
I'm
here?
fucked up. I have to go back and fix it.
You want me to
Yeah.
continue playing or
So
stop it?
it's just a part of things.
What?
As far as everything, it won't be set in stone until it actually is. So it can be 30, it can be 28, it can be whatever it is.
Okay.
Unless it's done and written in stone or whatnot, then it's open.
Okay.
So
Okay, good way to say it. But at least that way people have a better understanding, because again, there's other intel providers out there saying different things. Okay.
yeah, some are saying some people are saying it's April Fool's Day, the first of the year.
Yeah.
You guys want me to stop
Some are
it?
saying, it's January, some are saying it's March.
Same old
I'm
garbage.
telling y'all that it's going to be March 1st from here on out. And we will be making calendars and doing things according to what Dad wants us to do,
Right.
and the rest of the rest of the people will follow.
Right.
It's like right now we have so many things that we, us and the previous Jedis have put our energy behind and work towards, that we're literally manifesting it. So we're also manifesting more of us coming together to manifest things a lot faster. So the more energy we have and the more people we have participating in the grand scheme of things, things will definitely get done faster. It'll be written in stone, if you would, because it actually happened. And no AI or none of that will can be faked because we're natural beings that have abilities to do these things, and when you have the right skill set to manifest, shit just happens. It just fucking happens. So until then, we'll just keep doing what we do and allow the process, work on all the different things Daddy wants us to work on. Me and B don't sit here wondering if something's going to happen that he told us is going to happen. He says it's going to fucking happen. That's it. I don't care when.
Right.
The when is the people behind the scenes, or not behind the scenes, the people on the other side of the screen. When you stop fucking worried about when, that's when.
Right.
So enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, do the things that you're called to do. Go out and help people, or just educate people on certain things, blah blah blah. That's truthful. And all of a sudden, the when pops up and bites you right in the ass, like if you're trying to look for something.
Well, when you're busy doing productive and helpful things, you're focused there, right? You're not worried. You're not counting the days or the seconds and all that. And then when something happens, you'll be like, "Oh yeah," it almost seems natural, right? It's sadly sometimes not a big deal. Like,
yeah, exactly. Now, I gotta say this, because lately, in the last 6-7 months or so, things have been happening that Dad told me, 10,
Clean the couch.
10, 8, 5, 3, 2 years ago. And it's like, okay, now you see. Now I see, I mean. And those of you guys that have been with me for all that time back then, now y'all see.
right.
But y'all been seeing. So it's a cool thing to witness, especially, we all being vindicated, if you would, because a lot of you guys got heat because of me, and we know this shit to be true. Everybody, not everybody, but everybody that's that's in the field with us and getting this shit done and spreading the information. We got so much heat. I mean, y'all got so much heat. Y'all, people talk shit about y'all, talk shit about me, and yet we're still here doing what we're doing.
This is the first video, but I did two other things. But I read.
At the end of the day, Daddy's pretty much in your face and showing people that we are for real. We're not going nowhere. We have Daddy, and as long as everybody realizes that we have Daddy, there's really nothing to worry about.
Right. Right.
period. So
Right.
it is what it is.
And more of us are awakening and coming together and helping and excited about the various projects that, you know, you've got the foundation set for, and they're starting to blossom, right? So
Literally, I've been setting the foundation since way back when.
right.
Way back when. You know, and I was weird enough to do so. Right?
Stay weird. Stay weird.
I'm definitely staying weird. You know, like Steve Jobs once said, the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do, right?
Right.
Okay, well, I take stuff like that
almost
serious.
there.
I'm at the point where I enjoy telling people the crazy shit that I know is true because I see it. And then I just sit there just cracking up because they're like,
Get in here, Chico.
this guy's fucking nuts. And all of a sudden, what the fuck? Where'd that come from?
Come back around. They're gonna remember the conversation or whatever. They're gonna remember the way you made them feel. Okay, so all right, let's say a stranger comes and meets you and you tell them blah blah blah, and they're like, what? They're gonna remember your energy and how you were funny and how you have that confidence and conviction, and they're gonna remember that. It's not like you're beating them over the head,
right,
to make them believe something.
Right, and the certainty and you know, all of it. It's like, you know, they're also going to remember how they reacted to it.
Right.
You know, they're going to remember how they thought when we told them certain things. It's like, oh, this fucking guy or this fucking girl's fucking nuts, right? Stuff like that. So that alone will eat a bunch of them up, where they're just like, you know what, you win, you was right. How can I help?
Yep.
And now you got a whole bunch of fucking people that want to help, and you don't have to pay because they want to help for all the right reasons. Of course, you know, Daddy's providing funds and stuff like that for people as he has us do all these different tasks. Like the one post that I said where it says, if God sends you to do it, he's going to fund it. So a lot of people do things because it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do, including myself. I do what I do because I enjoy it, because I love it, and it's the right fucking thing to do. That's why I can't see myself charging for healings and stuff like that when I can just go and get it done with. So all of us know that Dad was going to take care of us no matter what. So let's just do what we do, and then the blessings come from him, including like when we give something to someone. I'm not expecting it to be returned at all. And I learned at an early age, because of my dealing in the streets and dealing with various people, that some people just don't like to pay back, right? So what I ended up doing and learning was just giving it to them. And whatever happens, happens. If they've returned it, cool. If not, cool. That's when I realized that, and I realized, you know what, here it is. You go ahead. I didn't say it out loud. If you're going to pay me back, it's cool. If not, don't worry about it. Some people that did pay me back were able to come back all the time.
Right.
The people that didn't pay me back.
Eat your food. Go eat your food.
Well, I can't really trust you to pay me back. So here, take that.
Right.
So by doing that is how I learned to just give it to them. If they keep their word, then they're good. If they don't keep their word, then you already know how this person's going to roll. You already know how their life is going to end. Not end, but how their life is going to
proceed.
Yeah, shit, you know, bullshit happening left and right, problems, blah, blah, blah. It's probably because you didn't keep your word and you didn't do things that you said you were going to do, or you had alternative goals, motives when you asked for the shit. So me learning all that at an early age, I just gave things away, knowing that if it didn't get returned, Dad will return it 100-fold. So that's where I'm at with it. That's why I don't worry about certain things. That's why I give
Okay, so that was somebody new I never played before. So I hope that. We have the latest Derek Johnson video. About 6 minutes, I think.
Or a patriot, you should not be negative one bit. You shouldn't be a negative Nancy. You shouldn't be a Debbie Downer. You should be the most positive person on the planet, period. Even when your back is against the wall and the enemy has surrounded you. And the reason why we have a Bible, but also the flippage of that as well, is to have parables out of it, examples out of it. And there's one great example in this very moment. Moses. Do you know all the people's name that were in the wilderness with Moses? No, you don't, do you? But you know Moses' name, don't you? Yeah, one person. So it don't matter that, oh, more veterans aren't saying something. It don't matter that, oh, more people. What matters is that you're here. And if you found someone like me, who all I do is outline everything lawfully that supports our foundation, supports our Constitution, supports our Declaration, supports our military, supports all of our founders' ideologies, you have no excuses after that. And if you follow someone in the comment box who says, oh, people are still only here buying this BS, it's your fault. You're letting someone else take you away because you're lazy, you're complacent, and you want to be spoon-fed everything. Now, I'll spoon-feed you the correct stuff, but majority of people who are complaining at this date and time, you're running and you're listening to everything that has a mouth and everything that has a blue check, expecting something to be different right now, and it's not going to be. This is a strategic operation. And when you seek to know what President Donald John Trump and the military is working with, that's all you need to know. That's people's problems. You're running to every other man and woman out there who has a website or a blue check or a red check or a this. You do not have to be a veteran to know what's going on whatsoever. That's just a bonus. But if people do not represent President Donald John Trump or anybody in the realm of what he's working with, you need to unfollow it, unsubscribe, and dump it. People wonder why I raise my voice like this is because this is so easy. It's so simple, it's stupid. Social media is good when it's good, but boy, when it's bad, it is ugly. Social media brought me to you. Great thing. Social media works when it works, but when people start following all the wrong people and all the people want to make money and want to have a face, want to be famous, or I said it first, or I did. Truth hurts sometimes. Facts hurt sometimes. But honesty comes out of that as well. I've been wrong in my life before. And every person that I've ever been wrong with that will remember maybe an incident or something years ago, or someone said, well, this is right here. And I said, I don't think so. And I went and looked it up. Every person that I've ever been wrong with, I have gone back and said, you know what, man, you were right. But if they're a good person, they won't hold that on you. What they will do is say, hey, you're even better and bigger of a man, or if you're a woman out there, they'll say, you're even better or bigger as a man for coming back and saying that, hey, I was wrong. So where we are right now in the world, we have a terminology problem and we have an education problem. Really, you could probably flip those around and say an education problem, because education will teach you the difference in terminologies, right? Libtards love them some pronouns, but they don't like the other terms out there. So if you want to be a part of what's going on, you want to contribute. And who knows where God will lead you in your lives? You never know. You don't know that. 9 people watched me live on August 24, 2022. 9 people. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people. Now, I did get confirmation that Department of then Defense, now War, helped that video go viral. But that's all right. People still had to watch it live while it was going on. Look what 9 people did, though. Those 9 people shared and they commented. And they got those algorithms rolling. And then some others helped with that. I don't know what God has planned for you, but I know that how he works. And he works individually. Now, we can be messengers of truth and messengers of faith and everything, but it's not telling you how to live. It's teaching you some things. My mom and dad taught me. My grandparents taught me. My great uncles taught me. And I listened to them. I shut up and listened. And they taught me things. I'll never forget one time, this was years ago, my grandfather, I'll never forget it. He told me, son, you better come over here and learn this. He was working in the yard. He was an expert with machinery, steel, iron, metal. Better come over here and learn this. Grandpa won't be here your whole life. He'd say, we'd drive past. So if you're a Christian.
Okay, that's the latest on Derek. I guess there was a train wreck in Spain, you guys. Uh, 21 killed after a high-speed train smashed into each other. 21 people were killed, 25 seriously injured. That's sad. Okay, I got a new update on news out of Texas here. I don't think I played it, okay?
Corrupt liberal establishment uniparty has, sold Texans liberty down the river for far too long, especially in the Texas House, where people are shocked to learn the radical Democrats still control the leadership in the Texas House. I mean, the Democrats pick our speaker. So the successes we're seeing, including, by the way, the governor, who absolutely, Governor Abbott, did the 100% the right thing with those bold and courageous declarations on the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE. But what that really speaks to is an uprising of the grassroots patriots who love our state, who love our country, who know that our freedoms that we cherish are worth preserving, that they are worth fighting for, and the elected Republicans in Austin had better get their heads out of the sand and start taking bold action. And I would be remiss, by the way, Stephen, if I didn't tip my hat to my fellow comrades, patriots in arms up in Broken Arrow. I just want to tell you directly, on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of Texans that I directly represent, and then the millions of Texans that I know that I speak for, we in Texas are with you as you rise up and stand up against the spread of these violent Islamists and jihadists and Sharia communities. We are with you. As to the letter, Stephen, this is super important. So I wrote a formal request because the Texas legislature is not planning to meet at all this year, do nothing official this year. That means the first time, unless we change something, that the Texas government could stand up and do anything bold, it would be next year, 2027, before we even debate ways to tackle this problem. And then most likely couldn't even be until the end of 27, into 28 or 29 before action. And I'm sorry, Texans voted for bold Republican leadership. They deserve bold Republican leadership. Further delay is unacceptable. And I go further. I think further delay from the Texas government is tantamount to acquiescence to the left. So here's what we need to do right now. We need to call emergency interim legislative oversight hearings, do our constitutional oversight. Let's look into the basics here. Is the Texas government funding groups that have nexus to radical, violent terror organizations that advocate the violent overthrow of the Texas government and the United States government? There's a lot of evidence that points to absolutely we are. We've got to do better oversight because our governor and other elected officials have said that Texas has banned Sharia law. The problem is we haven't. All we did was tweak one or two things in the family code. Well, if that's what we're saying is a ban on Sharia law, it's not. But if it is, why is it only in the family code? Let's hold hearings and put those prohibitions on the way these judicial courts that are making decisions based on foreign law, which why is that happening in Texas? We should apply that prohibition to all of the Texas code. And then here's a lot of your viewers are aware of this Epic City, this big Sharia compound that's being built here in North Texas. We did pass a law to ban Epic City. Are you ready for the problem with the law to ban Epic City that everyone down here in Austin talks about? We exempted Epic City from the law that's supposed to ban Sharia compounds like Epic City. So we've got a lot more work to do because the people of Texas, they don't want rhetoric. They're sick of rhetoric. They're sick of gaslighting. They want results. And then as to these terrorist designations, let's have a special session. Bring us back right now. Let's pass the bills that I'm talking about. Let's pass the new legislation based on the oversight hearings that we have to have. And then bring us back for a special session in 2026. Let's not wait till 2027. Let's not wait till 2028. We're adding 2 new mosques at least every month here in the state of Texas. We have 2 functioning Sharia tribunals right in my backyard, one in Irving, one in Dallas. Let's not wait. Let's confront this problem head on. And you talked about the generations that came before us that paid the ultimate price so that we can talk here on television, so that our children can enjoy the blessings of freedom and of prosperity. If the generations that came before us were willing to pay the ultimate price, then the least that elected Republicans in Texas can do is stand up, speak the truth. Even if the truth makes you unpopular, tell the people the truth, and then let's act on it. We've got a nation to save. We've got a country to save, and Texas is on the front lines. The only real concern.
Hey, Texas news. Lady on TikTok is new. She does short clips like that other lady. She does really good. About 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Then I got 2 Q videos. And maybe 4. Yeah, this lady pretty good.
For Casey Anthony to sit down and shut the fuck up. Casey Anthony, I almost had to laugh when I read what you had said. Okay. So you going to come out, you who was arrested for the unaliving of your little girl, and somehow the demonic forces that surrounded you and O.J. Simpson sprinkled whatever the fuck over the jury. I remember that trial very well. Okay, so you're going to come out and you're going to critique J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, coming from someone who was arrested for the unaliving of her little girl. And you're going to tell him that he don't really know the law, that he doesn't know what complete immunity is.
This lady, okay?
Then you didn't shut up. Then you said there needs to be complete transparency with what happened in Minnesota. Complete transparency, Casey. Kind of like how when you told the law officers that you worked at Disney World, and kind of how like you said you left your little girl with a babysitter, like the imaginary babysitter, you know, like the one nobody else could see but you. Kind of like the fact that you drove around with your unalived daughter in the trunk, and then you turned around and decided to destroy your whole fucking family.
Sorry about
by pinning it on your father and destroying him. So you've got your little following, right? Okay. So did Charles Manson. So did Jeffrey Dahmer. People sent him $5 every now and then in an envelope so he could go to the canteen. Okay. That doesn't make you special because you got people listening to you. But I didn't realize you got your law degree. I didn't know you were an advisor to the president. Do you really think J.D. Vance is going to listen to Casey Anthony? Now, if he needs advice on duct tape, or let's say how long to ride around town with a body in the trunk, or if he needs to know the best places to go party while everybody else is out looking for your baby and you get a tattoo, he'll reach out to you. Okay? If he needs to know how to make handcuffs tighter, he'll reach out to you. Otherwise, keep your fucking mouth shut. Nobody needs to hear your bullshit. Oh, and you're on the liberal side? Thank God. Thank God. That's the side we thought you'd be on. That's perfect, Casey. That is perfect. You're on the right side, okay? Shut the fuck up. Guess what time it is, guys?
She does better videos than that. That one's a bad word, but she does okay.
What's up, family? Back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. So I've heard multiple Republicans over the weekend call for Donald Trump's impeachment, calling for Donald Trump to be kicked out of office, even though there have been no high crimes, there have been no misdemeanors anywhere to be found. But they are truly jealous of Donald Trump. They're jealous of his support. They're jealous of the fact that Donald Trump is making moves and not consulting them about it first, for a couple of reasons. Number one, why would you consult people who you know are on the take? Number one, anyone who thinks the Democrats are the only ones that are getting rich in Washington are full of it. You guys know better than that, but some people just really honestly don't. In addition to that, they also realize that Donald Trump is not only cutting them out of deals, but he has the support of the people, which is something that they never did. So the first one that I saw was none other than Mike Pence. We know Mike Pence is a snake. He hid it as long as he possibly could, but he wanted the presidency. He was promised the presidency, and he wasn't able to get it. You remember they were talking about the snake in the office of the president, the one who was feeding them all of the information in the first Trump presidency. I don't think anyone at this point would doubt that that was Mike Pence. But in addition to that, we also had Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska. Now, he's come out and said that he has plans to impeach Trump over the Greenland situation, saying that if Donald Trump invades Greenland, that he's going to impeach. First and foremost, Donald Trump never even said anything definitively about invading Greenland. All of the conversations that I've heard as of recent had to do with Donald Trump putting a 10% tariff on European nations, which would go up to 75% this summer, or I'm sorry, 25% this summer if an agreement wasn't made to buy Greenland. You know what? Do I love it? No. But do I understand it? Yeah. Donald Trump sees Greenland as being something that is strategic to our national security, to our winning. At the end of the day, China is not playing nice. They are not trying to see America remain a global superpower. And if you think things are tough in America now, imagine what happens when we lose reserve currency status. And that is the goal of China right now. They've already developed a gold-backed currency, a gold-backed treasury, and they are already starting to use it in several different countries, and people are already starting to back it. So we understand that. We understand that there is no time to waste. But what I don't understand about these dirty Republicans is that they all of a sudden become constitutional scholars. But please tell me, When did the Constitution say that we're supposed to send hundreds of billions of dollars to foreign countries? When did the Constitution say that we were supposed to give carte blanche checks to these major war profiteering companies? When did the Constitution speak on that? When did the Constitution say we were supposed to support every other foreign war that came along? But yet they don't mind writing checks for all of these things. But yet then they want to scream, we're constitutional conservatives. No, they're not. They're profiteers. If they're upset about the fact that they are no longer able to build these bills and string things along and put little tidbits so that they can enrich themselves into these pieces of legislation. Trump's moving on without them, and they're not able to get their cut of the pie. If we're going to be honest, that's honest. That's why he has a problem with Donald Trump. That's why they have a problem with Donald Trump. It's not because they're any honest dealers or any honest brokers. Let me know what you guys think about this. It bothers me, but again, my job is to bring you guys the news. Make sure you comment below. I'll see you guys next time. Be blessed.
So that's the first one on. And Paul and Tim, I got 2 5-minute ones from that guy. He's on Telegram, and they're 5 minutes a piece. So let me know if you want me to play it or not. This is part 1.
Monday. This isn't about abstract legal theory. This is
one?
about real changes to how federal law gets enforced in your state, potentially in your county, and the decision is already causing emergency meetings in governor's offices across the country. Before we break down exactly what happened and why legal experts are calling this the most significant procedural shift in 40 years, hit subscribe so you never miss Supreme Court decisions that directly impact your rights. At 11:04 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the Supreme Court released an emergency order in Trump versus Casa Inc. that fundamentally restructures how federal courts can protect citizens from state and federal government actions. The ruling centers on something called nationwide injunctions, or universal injunctions. And if you've never heard that term before, you're about to understand why it matters more than almost any other legal mechanism in the American system. Here's what actually happened. Writing for the majority, Justice Amy Coney Barrett made it clear lower court judges no longer have the authority to issue court orders that freeze federal policies or state laws across all 50 states, even if only a handful of people actually brought the case to court. Federal judges can now only issue injunctions that protect people who are actually parties to a lawsuit. That might sound technical, but consider what it means in practice. For the past 30 years, if a single mother in Arizona filed a lawsuit challenging a federal immigration policy and a judge agreed with her, that judge could issue an order protecting not just her, but everyone in America from that policy. One plaintiff, one lawsuit, nationwide protection. The Supreme Court just said that's over. This might sound like inside baseball, but the data on this is absolutely wild. Over the last 10 years, there have been more than 60 nationwide injunctions issued by single federal judges. Between 2017 and 2021, nearly 78% of nationwide injunctions against federal policies were issued by judges in just 5 specific districts, even though those districts represent less than 4% of the US population. Effectively, this allowed one person in a black robe to override the will of the executive branch or entire state legislatures. What the Supreme Court just did was slam the brakes on that practice. The reasoning behind this decision goes way deeper than most legal analysts expected. Justice Gorsuch, in a blistering concurrence, cited historical evidence from 1789 through 1850. He argued that federal courts in early America never once issued an injunction that applied beyond the specific parties in front of them. He referenced 12 separate founding-era cases where judges explicitly rejected requests for broader relief, even when plaintiffs argued it would be more efficient. This matters because it suggests that the entire practice of nationwide injunctions has zero constitutional foundation. According to the majority, modern courts basically invented this power out of thin air. Justice Thomas went even further, pointing to Article 3 of the Constitution. He argued that federal judicial power is strictly limited to cases and controversies, which by definition means specific disputes between actual people, not abstract policy disagreements affecting 330 million people who aren't even in the courtroom. The dissenting justices, led by Justice Sotomayor, tried to counter by citing civil rights cases from the 1960s, but the majority essentially said those cases were wrong on this specific procedural point. This is explosive. According to an analysis published by Georgetown Law this morning, there are currently 134 active federal injunctions protecting millions of people who were never parties to the original lawsuits. Those injunctions cover everything from immigration enforcement to healthcare access, from environmental regulations to gun laws, from voting procedures to workplace protections, and as of last night's ruling, every single one of those injunctions is now constitutionally questionable. The numbers on this are staggering. The Department of Homeland Security is currently operating under 18 different injunctions that limit how they can enforce immigration law, injunctions that protect an estimated 4.7 million people who aren't named plaintiffs. The EPA has 11 injunctions blocking various environmental enforcement actions, affecting industries that employ 2.3 million workers. State abortion restrictions in 6 states are frozen by injunctions protecting women who weren't part of the original cases, roughly 8 million women of reproductive age across those jurisdictions. Within 6 hours of this ruling being published, the Attorney General of Texas filed emergency motions in 4 separate federal cases, arguing that existing injunctions should be dissolved immediately because they protect non-parties. Florida followed 3 hours later with similar motions in 3 cases. Arizona invoked it in a border security dispute. By 9 a.m. this morning, 11 different states had filed a total of 23 emergency motions, asking judges to either dissolve or drastically limit existing injunctions based on last night's Supreme Court decision. The speed of these responses tells you everything. Legal strategists view this as a massive win for executive enforcement. Inside the Department of Justice, sources say senior attorneys held an emergency conference call at 7 a.m. to discuss how this affects 23 ongoing cases. The White House counsel's office is reportedly advising federal agencies to prepare for policies they
part 1. Billy Bean will be next.
that might vanish within weeks. But here's the question everyone should be asking. If your constitutional protections depend entirely on whether someone in your specific situation happened to file a lawsuit in your specific jurisdiction, do you actually have constitutional rights, or do you just have geographic luck? Let's walk through what this looks like in practice. Right now, a federal judge in the Northern District of California has issued an injunction blocking enforcement of a federal regulation affecting how tech companies handle user data. Under the old system, that injunction protected every tech company in America. Under the new framework the Supreme Court just established, it only protects the 3 companies that were plaintiffs in that case. Every other tech company in the country could now face full federal enforcement of that exact same regulation, even though a federal judge already ruled the regulation is likely unconstitutional. Or consider immigration enforcement. Under the CASA ruling, the injunctions blocking the administration's executive order on birthright citizenship were narrowed instantly. While the pregnant plaintiffs in the case are still protected, the federal government is now technically free to apply the order to everyone else in jurisdictions where no specific injunction exists. Think about the chaos at the border. Federal immigration authorities could now potentially resume full enforcement of policies in Texas that are still blocked in California. This creates a patchwork republic where your status as a citizen or your eligibility for asylum literally changes the moment you cross a state border. Second Amendment rights are equally affected. Right now, gun regulations in several states are frozen by nationwide preliminary injunctions. If those get narrowed to only protect the named plaintiffs, state officials could immediately begin enforcing firearm restrictions on everyone else in those states, even while the court case is still technically active. What makes this particularly problematic is what legal scholars call the participation gap. Wealthy individuals and large corporations can afford to file federal lawsuits and become named plaintiffs. Low-income workers, immigrants, elderly people on fixed incomes, and rural residents far from major legal aid organizations often cannot. A Stanford Law study from 2023 analyzed every federal injunction issued between 2015 and 2022 and found that 73% of named plaintiffs were either corporations, wealthy individuals, or well-funded advocacy organizations. Only 27% were individual citizens of average or below average means. Under the new system, that 73% will still get protection. That 27% probably won't, because they can't afford to file lawsuits in the first place. This ruling completely rewrites the playbook for how legal battles are fought in federal court. For the past 20 years, advocacy groups on both sides of the political spectrum have relied on a tactic called forum shopping. They would find a single district in a friendly circuit, like the Northern District of California for progressives or the Northern District of Texas for conservatives, and file a lawsuit knowing that one sympathetic judge could issue a nationwide block. Now that the Supreme Court has effectively killed this strategy, the one-and-done victory is dead. This ruling just made it 5 to 10 times more expensive to challenge unconstitutional government action. Under the old system, if you wanted to challenge a federal regulation, you filed one lawsuit in one jurisdiction with one legal team. If you won a universal injunction, every American benefited. Total cost for a complex federal case might be $300,000 to $800,000 in legal fees. Under the new system, if you want that same nationwide impact, you need separate plaintiffs in potentially dozens of jurisdictions. Each lawsuit needs its own legal team familiar with local precedent and local procedures. The math on this is brutal. What previously cost $500,000 might now cost $5 million or more to achieve the same protective reach. Major law firms sent memos to their clients between midnight and 8 a.m. this morning explaining the new cost structure. The American Civil Liberties Union held an emergency board call at 7 a.m. to discuss how this affects their litigation budget. Public interest law firms are scrambling to figure out which cases they can still afford to bring and which cases they'll need to abandon. But it's not just advocacy groups that are panicking. Corporate America is quietly terrified. For a multi-state company, the Trump versus Casa ruling is a logistical nightmare. Imagine being a national retailer or a bank. Previously, if a federal judge blocked a new Department of Labor rule on overtime or an FTC ban on non-compete agreements, that rule was frozen for your offices in New York, Texas, and Florida simultaneously. Now that certainty is gone. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimates that compliance costs could spike by $47 billion annually. Why? Because a to follow a federal regulation in the Fourth Circuit, while that same regulation is blocked in the Fifth Circuit. The pharmaceutical industry is particularly exposed. There are currently 7 injunctions affecting various FDA enforcement actions. If those injunctions get limited to named plaintiffs only, they'll have protection while their competitors face full enforcement of the exact same rules. It's economically destructive because it means regulatory compliance depends on litigation strategy rather than actual legal standards. Banking.
Okay, that was for the people that interested in all that. There were short ones. That's your Chico. Daily bean time.
Inflammation in the gut. And
welcome to Truth by Billy Bean. Today's date, January 26, time in Texas, about 1 p.m. Some of the things we'll cover: X-Flare and the U.S. military preps from Minnesota, Cuba, Iran, Greenland, and so on. President Trump, Greenland, a twofer, I believe, for America. And President Trump, assassins, we understand, are after him. And we have this. The U.S. military has also set up a no-fly area.
Another big killer earlier.
Over Mexico, Eastern Pacific, Caribbean, Panama, Central and South America. So what's going on? So let's get started. Some of my sources are God in the Bible Patriot subscribers, InfoWars, Dabu77, Hal Turner, ABC News, Watch Plus. So let's get started. Now, we've just had, in the last 30 minutes, an X-flare come off the sun, a 1.8. So it'll take some time to generate a CME. It's possible a CME will be coming. Today, January 18, we are expecting a geomagnetic G1 storm produced from the solar wind that's been coming off the sun. Next, we had this X 1.8 flare coming off in the last hour. And Stephen Burns brought out yesterday that there have been spikes in the Schumann chart. The Schumann is the regular vibration of the earth that's tied to humans for our health, both physical and mental. Usually vibrates at 7.83 hertz. but there have been spikes in it, and Stephen Burns has tied this to a preemptive signal for large earthquakes coming. And the 1.8 flare also has disrupted communications in the Pacific, Southeast Pacific Ocean, and South America. And we're seeing the U.S. military beginning some efforts to prep militarily in South America and Central America. So we've got this. We've got, we know Minnesota is a hot spot. The U.S. military preps to deploy there. And we have a NOTAM that began yesterday from the FAA. Now we have more direction on it. So it's over Cuba, Panama, Mexico, and Colombia plus. And so let's get started. Okay, Greenland. We know that President Trump has said the U.S. needs Greenland for the U.S. strategic security as part of his ongoing Golden Dome project. And as I brought out, even Denmark's own intel less than a month ago told Denmark that Russia and China would take Greenland by force. So Denmark, shut up. And we have this. I believe President Trump's efforts with Greenland is going to secure Greenland one way or another for U.S. strategic security. And Canada, you can also shut up, because what the U.S. is putting forth, the Golden Dome, taking Greenland, would also protect Canada, who recently aligned itself with the CCP. Look for Canada to be put on the list of other territories the U.S. may also take in the future. I believe through Greenland, President Trump will give us a twofer. He will take Greenland for U.S. strategic security and at the same time, get us out of NATO. So that's going on. Now, what do we see? We have seen Dems and rhinos standing up to identify themselves as traitors to America, going to Greenland and taking a public stand against President Trump and the people of America, including Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. I believe the DOJ should launch a criminal investigation into those Dems and rhinos who went to Greenland to stand up against America, launch a criminal investigation into their finances. Are they on the CCP pay operation? So let's see.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first.
Watch this.
And so then we saw some European nations sending military and other groups to Greenland to stand against America, which included a group from Germany, the Bundeswehr intel group of 15. They were there to provide intel. As soon as President Trump made clear that he's going to bring tariffs against seven European nations who are standing up against America, 10% beginning February 1.
Are you lurking?
We saw Germany immediately withdrawing their intel group from Greenland. Apparently, Germany cannot stand any more U.S. tariffs. Now, it's believed, it's my perspective, that President Trump has a long-term view with taking Greenland because he said 10% tariffs beginning February 1, which would escalate to 25% beginning June 1. Apparently, he believes it's going to take about 5 months or so to take Greenland. And I believe he needs to put also on the table that if Greenland and Denmark do not agree to sell Greenland to the U.S. during this time period, that he then make the decision no money to Greenland and Denmark to pay for Greenland, no money, and the U.S. military will simply move in and take it by force. So that's my position on this. And we have this. So we have also that we are seeing a massive military move against, so we have Israel, we have Iran. We have 3 strike carrier groups en route to, are already positioned there. We have the Bush, the Roosevelt, and the Lincoln is en route. It's currently been spotted at the Malacca Strait. So we see President Trump continuing. Now we do see Europe working with the U.S. military to prep for a hit on Iran, with the UK from its Akatan base in Cyprus putting additional flight planes on the base. It's believed to assist Israel, the U.S. and Israel in their hit on Iran. We also see France and UK sending troops to the UK base in Cyprus.
Okay,
So that's going on. We have also, yesterday we had additional C-17 cargo planes going to Diego Garcia. 3 came from Ramstein in Germany and 1 from the U.S. So that's going on. And we have this. Today, the U.S. military has moved 12 F-15s from the UK to the Middle East. They moved from the RAF Lakenheath base in the UK to Muwafan South Air Base in Jordan. So we see the U.S. military continuing to prep for a hit on Iran. We have this from Michael Jaco, who recently interviewed Sheila Holm, that the U.S. has military plans for Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, plus. So yes, we see additional things going on. And Iran, yeah, we have 3 strike carrier groups moving in. So that's going on. And we have this, Cuba. So the U.S. has moved, so Cuba.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
it appears that the U.S. is prepping for Cuba and Mexico next.
18 minutes.
Cuba and Mexico. The U.S. moved in 2 amphibious ships. That happened in the last 24 hours. The USS Iwo Jima and the USS San Antonio. They're currently located north of Cuba. So that would be between Florida and Cuba. And we have, yes, and the U.S., yesterday the FAA came out and put a warning out about a no-TAM, a no-fly area for commercial airliners. And today we have more definition. It went into effect Friday. It is to last for the next 60 days through March 17. And it covers Mexico, Panama, Cuba, Central and North America, and it extends out into the Eastern Pacific. So we see all of this area is now under a NOTAM, with the FAA giving warning and the U.S. military also giving warning to commercial and private planes that this area is subject to immediate military action that will be ongoing for the next 60 days. What do we have going on with the U.S. banks? Now, preparatory to a war situation in a nation, we would expect to see certain things happening. And I believe we are seeing those things happen in the U.S., one regarding banks, and two regarding our grid. So with U.S. banks, this happened, I believe, Friday or Saturday. U.S. banks are limiting how much cash an individual can withdraw from a bank at one time. They're now limiting it to $500 per day. And if you want a larger amount than $500, you have to fill out a form, and then 7 days later, after the bank investigates what you want the money for, the bank will make a decision as to whether or not you can withdraw that. But right now, you American citizens can withdraw $500 in cash per day. So that's going on. Now, we have seen certain things going on with our grid in America. We had Thursday and Friday. Thursday, we had a cell outage, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. And Friday, we saw some AI computer server services. We had AWS Plus. It's coming out now that the reason there were outages in the cell phone and also the AI cloud servers on Friday was because these communication platforms are being hardened, against military hits. So that's going on. And we have this from Deep Dive talking about Greenland, that and intel from Larry Johnson, formerly with the CIA, and Ray McGovern, that in Iran, we had the CIA and Mossad go in, prepping before the protests began by pre-positioning Starlink. Now, I brought out in my last video information from a Iran resistance leader, Rajavi, who has been in the resistance group for 20 years, that, yes, it was known that protests were going to begin. They were being organized inside Iran by resistance groups aided by CIA and Mossad to help and organize and prep the people of Iran in uprising against their government. So that's going on. We have that Also, Russia preps to use more
13
Oreshneks
minutes, you guys.
inside Ukraine. And we note this is a medium-range ICBM that Russia so far has deployed inside Ukraine with devastating effects. And yet the Oreshniks are not armed with either conventional weapons nor nukes. So that's going on. And we have this. In Minnesota, from the Alaska report, we see that and I have another source, that the U.S. Military was prepping to send 1,500 active duty troops to Minnesota. Now, this would only come about if President Trump signs the Insurrection Act. Currently in Minnesota, the commie Dem Governor Waltz of Minnesota has called up the National Guard inside Minnesota to help the Minnesota police against the, it's my belief, the commie paid agitators. And what we have now is if and when President Trump signs the Insurrection Act, the U.S. military is prepping right now in Alaska. They canceled the holiday leave. We have a holiday Monday for MLK birthday. They canceled the holiday leave for a certain group of active duty U.S. military troops inside Alaska. They are paratroopers who do quick response. And this is going forth under Operation Metro Surge at Elmendorf Richardson Base, the 11th Airborne Group, and it's 1,500 active duty paratroopers who are now being prepped by the U.S. military to be deployed to Minnesota.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark.
When President Trump signs
10 minutes.
the Insurrection Act. And in Greenland, President Trump has put forth, he's going to begin tariffs against Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, Netherlands, and Finland, beginning February 1, 10%, June 1, 25%. So that's going on. And from What's Up with Shipping, we see the U.S. military in the Caribbean has seized 6, possibly 7 oil tankers. The U.S. military continues an oil tanker embargo against sanctioned tankers. We see that Chevron has tankers coming out of Venezuela with no problem. It's only sanctioned oil tankers, Russia, Iran, China, and so forth. So the U.S. military is continuing to seize oil tankers in the Caribbean, which greatly diminishes the oil benefits and revenue going to Iran, Russia, and China. We note in the past month, Russia's revenue from oil has gone down 5%. We believe this is also having devastating effects on the Chinese economy and also on Iran. And also, the U.S. military is stopping drug and trafficking operations in the Caribbean from Venezuela. And we have this. We had that tanker originally named Bella, renamed itself Monero reflagging itself to Russia. So in a previous video, I brought out this tanker has been boarded and taken by the U.S. military. It was not carrying oil. Instead, it was carrying some type of nuclear devices. So that's going on. And all of the oil tankers that the U.S. military is securing are going to Houston, Texas for offloading. We have this warning coming from Dan Bongino, former deputy director of the FBI who resigned recently. We note Dan Bongino has not taken up his social media platform yet, but he did, after he resigned from the FBI, come out and make a public statement that President Trump is actively being hunted by paid professional assassins paid for by foreign nations, most likely Iran and China. And Dan Bongino puts forth the President Trump warning. The Secret Service is not enough protection. So look for President Trump in the future to have U.S. Marines protecting him. We have this from BP Earthwatch. Okay, space. So I put out that we had an X-1.8 today, just a little while ago in the last hour. So what are we facing from space? We're facing a direct impact on communications on the Earth. This would affect satellites, GPS, and so on. Now, as I put forth, U.S. missiles are not guided by GPS, but are intelligent. So we had from the sun, we had a 1.8 flare. It's being observed to see if a CME will come off to give us an additional geomagnetic storm. Today, we do have a G1 that is impacting communications in the Southeast Pacific and South America, where we know the U.S. military appears to be prepping for additional military action. And from BP, also talking, so we have Earth.
Taxes was
This
feeling
is the last
unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door to new TurboTax stores. Meet our experts. They do your taxes, so you can walk out with confidence. Now this is Taxes.
Progress. It's
Also talking about Atlas. Now we have this. We've had much information and many credible sources that Atlas is certainly not a comet. It is some type of interstellar object under intelligent control. So BP is bringing forth ancient Sumerian text. We know Stitchin used that to bring out information about Nibiru, Planet X. And BP puts forth, he's associating this information with Atlas. Now, it could be in we know Nibiru, Planet X is a planet-sized object. Atlas is not a planet-sized object, but Atlas could certainly be something like a probe for Nibiru or Planet X. So BP puts forth a Sumerian text, which details something like darkness at noon. And he brought out a map of the orbit of Nibiru, Planet X, which shows it coming into, we have the Earth, we have an elliptical orbit for Planet X or Nibiru. Most likely that occurs on a 3,600-year trajectory. And it's believed, this is what we're seeing now. We know in Saudi Arabia, 2 suns have been photographed. And this binary sun, 2 suns for Earth, could be something we're also seeing happening. We had information from Mike from Around the World months ago about a second sun. We see now in Saudi Arabia, they are videotaping what appears to be 2 suns in the sky. And BP Earthwatch brings out Atlas. January 22nd is going to align with the axis of the sun. So we have Atlas. So here's the sun's axis, the Earth. So Atlas will align with both the sun and Earth January 22nd. We're not hearing what would be the impact from this, but we should be able to get a clearer view of Atlas because there will be no shadow from the sun. So that's going on. And we have this. We have, W77 and other sources brought out, and as I mentioned about the outages, the cell outages and the server outages Friday, Mike from Around the World said they were being taken offline on purpose by the U.S. military and the companies involved to add additional hardening to these systems. So that's going on. And we have this. Yes, so yesterday there were 2 large explosions. This comes from Hal Turner in Minnesota near Willow River, believed to be gas pipelines exploding. And we have this. So President Trump, it's believed, preps to sign the Insurrection Act, bring in the U.S. military to Minnesota, which we believe will be the paratroopers from Alaska. So that's going on. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. Billy Bean for today. I got a couple short ones, then we'll do the X2 report. Pamela, welcome.
Scrambling. It starts with a purple-haired Democrat looking like she just wandered off a circus set, snapping at reporters when asked if her party will be blamed for the shutdown. Then there's Chuck Schumer, so terrified of AOC that he's practically holding his own senators hostage. Even Chris Cuomo has finally snapped, unloading on his own party. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he just stripped the military of men wearing dresses today. And let me tell you, liberals are in a downward spiral. Do they not see the trap that they're walking into as the midterms approach? This is why we need to see and share the truth. So like, comment, and subscribe. Every interaction helps push this story further. All right, here's how the left is handling the blame for it from a woman who looks like she just walked through a paintball match without a helmet. Now, here's what a shutdown actually means. On October 1st, the military still gets paid. On October 2nd, federal employees still get their paychecks. Social Security checks keep coming. Medicare and Medicaid keep rolling. In other words, life doesn't grind to a halt. It's not like someone unplugged America from the socket. But If this goes past October 15th and 16th, then Social Security checks stop going out. The wild part, a clean
ahead and block
resolution
'em.
is already sitting on the table. The only thing blocking it, Chuck Schumer. Why? Because he's terrified of AOC running against him and taking his seat. It's all about the power grab. It's dangerous just because Trump touched it. I mean, some Democrats, they're even trying to shift the blame, claiming Republicans control all three branches of government, which is correct, but that's not how this works. You need 60 votes in the Senate. Republicans, they only have 53, which means you still need 8 or 9 Democrats to cross over. But Schumer can't cave because if he does, AOC might come for his job. Even Chris Cuomo's had enough of this squad member. Cuomo starts screaming at Democrats like a coach at halftime. You know the team isn't just down, they're getting blown out. I mean, he basically told them to quit live streaming dance routines in the locker room and start acting like they came to play. But it's not just Cuomo yelling at them. Democrats are also under pressure from outside groups trying to dictate their votes. Check this out. A left-wing activist group with deep ties to George Soros is leading a full court press to pressure Senate Democrats to block government funding and force a partial shutdown. Indivisible, the group behind the recent No Kings protests and other anti-Trump demonstrations, is actively pushing Democrats to ignore bipartisan deals with Republicans and the president. They've even made it easy for people to get involved. Their website provides a phone script so anyone can call their Democrat senators and demand they hold the line on the shutdown. It's activism turned into a step-by-step instruction manual for gridlock. And just to connect the dots for you, Indivisible's non-tax deductible entity has raked in $7.6 million from Soros Open Society foundations over the past 8 years. How convenient is that? Democracy isn't just being debated in the Senate anymore, it's being managed by billionaire-funded activists. We have a government that is teetering on the edge of a shutdown, and Democrats, they're scrambling. It starts with a purple-haired Democrat looking like she just wandered off a circus set, snapping at reporters when asked if her party will be blamed for the shutdown. Then there's Chuck Schumer, so terrified of AOC that he's practically holding his own senators hostage. Even Chris Cuomo has finally snapped, unloading on his own party. And Secretary Pete Hegseth, he just stripped the military.
That was part 1. This is part 2. I got to figure out how to block them.
Your health, he and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are also making it crystal clear they'll protect America's strength. So Hegseth and President Trump laying it out with zero apologies. Changes are definitely coming to the military. We're talking about ending political correct leadership, restoring discipline and grooming standards, demanding real physical fitness, and putting merit back where it belongs. Hegseth drove the point home. There will be one standard for all. Because when our sons, daughters, and grandkids are on the front lines, they deserve to fight shoulder to shoulder with warriors who can carry them out of harm's way if they're injured. The enemy doesn't care about your pronouns. They don't care if you're black, white, male, or female, and neither should our military. This is about building the strongest, most capable fighting force on earth. That's peace through strength, plain and simple. But of course, you can imagine how that triggered the left. Cue MSNBC's Reed Gallen having a full-blown meltdown. Watch this analysis. That is playground insults. And the kicker here, he says we should feel sorry for the men and women in uniform. No, sir. What's truly laughable is thinking our enemies were intimidated by Rainbow Rifle Month and drag queen shows on base. I mean, if anything, that's what they're laughing at. And the results, they speak for themselves. While the left whines, Americans are more energized than ever before. It's not just the military. FBI Director Kash Patel, he's proving that he's not messing around either. Night after night of ICE officers being attacked, Patel dropped this hammer. Quote, FBI Portland just took down a residence of a suspect who allegedly targeted CBP officers. All 4 individuals located in the house are in the U.S. illegally and now in custody. Come after law enforcement officers, and this FBI will put you away. And while the Trump administration is laser focused on restoring law and order and backing our brave men and women in blue, Democrats can't let go of their obsession of, well, you know it, J6, using it as a political weapon while ignoring the real crime wave that is hitting our streets. Watch as Democrat Senator Dick Durbin, this was just today, tries to trap DC Police Union boss Greg Pemberton in a gotcha moment, only for it to blow up in his face, exposing the left's blatant hypocrisy. Of course, a Democrat doesn't follow because this level of thinking requires common sense. And here's my quick raw take as the proud wife of a soon-to-be lieutenant. Congratulations, babe, on the promotion. We lived through the 2020 BLM riots. My husband and his fellow officers, they were under siege while Democrats were screaming, defund the police. And when violent criminals were finally arrested, Democrats just bailed them out with celebrity cash. That's why this union boss is frustrated, because Democrats only care about cops when it serves their narrative. The unfiltered truth from the front lines. And Durbin still dodges it like a career politician. I mean, this is why conservatives fight. Democrats talk a big game about justice, but they've turned our cities into war zones by coddling these criminals and vilifying the very people keeping us safe. And tragically, the consequences are devastating. Democrats say they care, but Trump is actually cutting costs.
Okay, we're going to do the X2 report, then come back and do the short videos. Today's X2 report. Is that you, Henry, from Spain? Wow, Happy New Year. You had a big train wreck.
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3820 AM. Today's date is January 18th, 2026. And the title of the episode is Central Bank Have Engaged in an Economic War to Stay in Power. Economic leverage belongs to Trump. Now, let me ask you a question. What if you could do more with your retirement funds than just hope for the best? With My Digital Money, you can build a self-directed IRA that goes beyond the usual, combining Bitcoin, gold, and silver for real peace of mind. Imagine Bitcoin's explosive growth, the steady strength of gold, and silver's wildcard potential, all working together in one powerful account. While the market zigzags and headlines keep you guessing, these assets help shield your future from inflation and uncertainty. Why let your future hinge on just one bet? With My Digital Money, you're in control. We allow you to invest in crypto, gold, and silver all under one roof, balancing risk and reward and opening the door to bigger opportunities. Don't settle for ordinary. Build a more balanced, resilient portfolio today so you can retire with confidence. Visit My Digital Money and see how easy it is to diversify and protect your retirement today. That is mydigitalmoney.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they're starting to realize that their entire plan for the Great Reset, the Green New Scam, it's not going the way they thought it was going. And now with Trump basically removing the entire central bank system that they set up, the globalist system that they set up, they realize that since their Green New Scam, the Great Reset, is not going to happen at this point in time, they need to start reversing a couple things, and they need to start fighting back against Trump. Because think about it. Trump, he established the tariff system. Yes, they're trying to stop him every step of the way. Yes, they brought the case to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has not made a ruling on it yet. And they realize that if Trump gets his way, everything that they have done is going to destroy their countries. Remember, they went ahead and they destroyed nuclear reactors. They went ahead and they basically stopped all gas production. They stopped everything. They were importing the fuel, the energy that they needed, making electricity costs move higher and higher and higher. Remember, this was all prepared and ready to go for their Green New Scam. They never expected Trump to come in and actually demolish the central bank globalist plan. They never expected him to shut it all down. And now they're in trouble. And this is what they're afraid of. This is what they're panicking about. And you could see the Federal Reserve, they're also pushing back because they realize that Trump is coming after them. And this is why he's created the parallel economic system, because you needed an engine to compete with another system that's really not an engine. It's actually the opposite of an engine that actually springboards the economy into the next level. But he created this engine that is getting more powerful every single day. And the central bank will not be able to keep up with this. It is shown throughout history that once you have the tariff system and you have an engine that continually brings in income over and over and over and over, you cannot compete with a system that issues debt. There's no comparison whatsoever. And the central bank knows this. Why do you think they get rid of the tariff system altogether when they come into power? Because they know if the tariff system still existed, it would destroy the central bank system. And you can see the countries, since Trump now is basically shutting down their base of operation, not just here in this country, but around the world, they're realizing the direction that they're heading in is now the wrong direction. Remember, everything that they were doing was to bring everyone in this world into the Green New Scam, the Great Reset. What happens when that's not the direction anymore? Everything that you did is going to hurt your country, while the rest of the world goes in the complete opposite direction. Think about that for a second. I mean, all you got to do is look at California in this country and Germany out in Europe. Germany has a severe electricity shortage and a cost problem, and it's getting worse. Actually, German Chancellor Merz recently made the admission that shutting down the German nuclear power reactors was a mistake. So why would he say it's a mistake now? Because you have to remember, the entire system, the world, is moving in a completely different direction that was planned. And now they're realizing, holy crap, what are we going to do? Because if the world moves that direction, we do not have the energy, we don't have manufacturing, we have nothing. So basically, he's realizing that this is terrible for Germany. And you have to remember, Germany basically is the engine that keeps the EU operational. It represents the largest contributing economy in the European Union. And the German industrial sector is the backbone of the European economic model. And if they don't have the energy, and energy is too high, and manufacturers are moving out, what have they done? They've destroyed their entire system because, again, we're moving in a different direction. And you can see Europe right now, they're panicking because of what Trump's doing. He's trying to get Greenland. Now, we'll discuss this in the political report, but let me just bring this in a little bit because, again, Trump now is putting a lot of pressure on the EU, putting a lot of pressure on the EU nations. And what's going to happen is the EU is going to try to fight back, but they're not going to win. But let me just read what he put out on Truth. And this is about Denmark and the European Union and how he's placing tariffs on them because of Greenland. We have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs or any other forms of remuneration. Now, after centuries, it is time for Denmark to give back. World peace is at stake. China and Russia want Greenland, and there's not a thing Denmark can do about it. They currently have 2 dog sleds as protection, one added recently. Only the United States of America under President Donald J. Trump can play in this game, and very successfully at that. Nobody will touch this sacred piece of land, especially since the national security of the United States and the world at large is at stake. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. This is a very dangerous situation for the safety, security, and survival of our planet. These countries who are playing this very dangerous game have put a level of risk in play that is not tenable or sustainable. Therefore, it is imperative that in order to protect global peace and security, strong measures must be taken so that this potentially perilous situation ends quickly and without question. Starting on February 1st, 2026, all of the above-mentioned countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland, will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. On June 1st, 2026, the tariff will be increased to 25%. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. The United States has been trying to do this transaction for over 150 years. Many presidents have tried, and for good reason, but Denmark has always refused. Now, because of the Golden Dome and modern-day weapon system, both offensive and defensive. The need to acquire is especially important. Hundreds of billions of dollars are currently being spent on security programs having to do with the dome, including for the possible protection of Canada. And this very brilliant but highly complex system can only work at its maximum potential and efficiency because of angles, metes, and bounds in this land it is included in. The United States of America is immediately open to negotiation with Denmark and or any of these countries that have put so much at risk, despite all that we have done for them, including maximum protection over so many decades. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
This is what 92 hair washes can do in 6 months. Not 10 washes, not 30 washes.
Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Now, of course, we know that the EU, the deep state players, what they really wanted, they didn't want the United States to have the ability to defend itself because, again, they wanted to bring us into war. That was the plan because, remember, the central bank system only lasts for a period of time, usually around 50 years, and then it starts to break down and it goes into a death spiral. So normally with the central bank system, if you look back over time, they always follow it up with a war to reset the entire thing. This is why when they brought out the pandemic, they came out and said this is the perfect time for the Great Reset because they thought, oh, instead of a war, we'll use the pandemic instead to basically destroy the population, destroy the economies, and this way we could do the Great Reset. But Trump, he countered all of this. And this was a major, major problem for them. So all they have left right now is a war to cover up the entire implosion of the central bank system. But you have to remember, Trump and the Patriots, hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit x22gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's x22gold.com or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. They're doing something very, very different. They're bringing us into a new system. And this is what the globalists, the central bankers are trying to stop right now. Remember, Trump has the economic leverage, but the central bank, like we said from the very, very beginning, they will end up going to war with the United States on an economic level. Yes, they would like to bring it into a physical level where it would be World War III, but right now they're going to try to do it on a economic level, which they're going to lose because they do not have the leverage. So you can see out in the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, she came out and said the EU, they're going to be signing an agreement. The agreement sends a very strong message to the world. It reflects a clear and deliberate choice. We chose fair trade over tariffs. We choose a productive long-term partnership over isolation. So basically, they want the globalist system to be intact. Trump is dismantling the globalist system. And basically, Trump now is going to put a lot of pressure on the EU and he's going to use tariffs. And once again, you could see the EU and the nations that belong to the EU, they're going to try to fight back. The Kobisi letter on X put this out and said, France's President Macron calls for the EU to activate its most potent trade weapon against the U.S. after President Trump's tariff threat over Greenland. Macron is now calling for the use of EU's anti-coercion instrument. If used against the U.S., it would restrict U.S. access to the EU market, potentially blocking U.S. banks from EU procurement and targeting U.S. tech giants. This trade weapon has never been used before. So in short, if they decide to do this, this will, of course, trigger a trade war. The United States, once again, has the leverage. And yes, this will hurt the EU immensely. And Trump, he will counter the EU. He'll raise tariffs beyond 25%. He will force concessions. And he will force the EU to do what he wants. He'll hit the automobile market. He'll hit the steel market. He'll hit the agricultural market. He'll hit all of these markets. They tried this before. They failed, and they will continue to fail because, again, Trump has the economic leverage. Remember, they're doing this on the basis of the central bank globalist system. Trump is doing this on the basis of the tariff system, which is very, very different. And this is why when Trump first announced
11
tariffs
minutes,
on all these
guys.
countries, and they tried to fight back, think about Canada,
The next
think about the
two will
EU,
be,
think about all
10
the different
minutes.
nations. Every single one of them folded in the end because they knew they could not basically fight against Trump's tariff system. They thought they could. They came out, pushing strong wording. And then in the end, what happened? They all folded. What do you think is going to happen right now? The same thing. Actually, you might even see countries in the EU to say, you know something? We might be doing trade with the United States outside of the EU. And actually, this might splinter the EU in the end. Think about it. You think Hungary might want to have trade with the United States? You think other countries might want to have trade with the United States outside the EU? Actually, this is going to be the downfall of the EU. It's going to be absolutely horrific. And every step of the way, you could see that they were setting up for something very, very different. I'm talking about the deep state, the central bankers, the globalists. They were setting everything up to be shifted to China. Remember, that's what they were actually preparing for. And now that's not happening. P. North put this out and says, I don't think people truly understand the extent to which China has been plundering and deceiving the West, or the extent to which their own governments let them. The Chinese economy is built on fraud that would make Somalians blush. Virtually everything China sells us is based on stolen IP with fraudulent certification and made with slave labor while plundering the world's oceans and polluting the planet like no other. Then as Europe deindustrializes and offshores its manufacturing to China, along with knowledge economy that goes with it, it passively allows China to subvert its customs enforcement and tariff regime and rolls out the red carpet for industrial scale data theft. Make no mistake, China is at war with the West. This is an economic war that's been going on for 30 years or more. But Western liberals would rather align with China because Orange Man bad. That's the mentality we're dealing with here. For sure, China isn't planning on invading the West, but they don't need to because we're already handing over everything of value without a fight. And now Trump with the tariff system, he's taking it all back. You see, the EU was in line with China, and now they're screwed. You remember, they were walking down the path of the Green New Scam. Manufacturing, everything was going to be moved to China. And they were going to basically strip Europe of pretty much everything. And now they have to reverse all this because they see the direction that everything is heading. It's not heading in the direction that they wanted. It's heading in a completely and utterly different direction. And Trump's parallel economic system is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is why the deep state, the central bankers, the globalists have launched a lawsuit against Trump because they have to stop him any way they possibly can, which they will not be able to. And now you see the EU, they're panicking. They're nervous. They're afraid. And this is the only thing that they have to stop the United States, Trump, from implementing the parallel economic system. And actually, this is going to end up destroying them. Just like Canada now is going to China, trying to work out deals with China because they realize they're screwed with the United States. And once again, Canada is dependent on the United States. Europe is dependent on the United. Actually, all these countries are dependent on the United States. And they're starting to realize, holy crap, now what are we going to do? Because everything was set up for the globalist system. And Trump now, he's reversing everything. He's reversing the entire economic system. What you're seeing right now is the economic war. The central bankers are now fighting back. The globalists are now fighting back with everything they have to try to stop Trump. But in the end, this is all going to fail. And what's very interesting is that Trump is giving the economic power back to the people every step of the way. I mean, think about what he just did with the credit card rate. This is going to give people buying power. Now, remember, he can't just wipe out the central bank. He just can't shut everything down because he has to remember you have to transition everything into the new economic system. But he can do things along the way to give people the economic power. OSZ put this out and said, CNN, Trump's credit card rate cap is great politics. Google searches for credit card rate cap are up 3,200%. It's popular in every poll. Equal shares of Dems, GOP have credit card debt. 55% say credit card debt is a stress. Cost of living ranks number one on issues. Think about that as we head into the midterms. Think about what Trump is doing right now and think about how fast the economy is growing. It is now stronger than China's. Peter Sayong, PhD, put this out and said, GDP hit 5.5%, meaning the American economy is now growing faster than China. Productivity growth tripled. Wages are growing 3.8%. Layoffs are the lowest since 2022. Inflation is just 1.7% per true inflation. This is the crash legacy media and economists swore was coming. Absolutely. And you could see the economy is getting stronger, better, and basically we're now getting stronger than China. China is in trouble. The EU is in trouble. Canada is in trouble. The United States, it's growing. We have an engine that is far beyond the central bank system. And this is why you have Fed's cash carry out there saying that the U.S. economy is best served by an independent Federal Reserve. Actually, the U.S. economy is best served without a central bank system. And I do believe Trump, the Patriots, they know this. And I think this is why they're building the economic system the way they are right now, to go up against the deep state plays, to go up against the central bank system. The engine is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And you can see the fake news. They're trying to convince people that Trump is trying to put in Jamie Dimon as the Fed head. Actually, that is complete and utter fake news. Actually, I think what's going to happen in the end, Trump is going to restructure the Fed into the Treasury, and he's going to show the world all the criminal activity. And I think he's already started by actually going after Jerome Powell and the cost overruns, the fraud that they have been committing on the people of this country. And he's beginning with the construction of the new Fed office. And again, like we said before, if they can't handle that, how are they handling the economy of this country? But Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, a front page article in the fake news Wall Street Journal states, without any verification, that I offered Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase the job of Fed chairman. This statement is totally untrue. There was never such an offer. And in fact, I'll be suing JP Morgan Chase over the next 2 weeks for incorrectly and inappropriately debanking me after the January 6th protest, a process that turned out to be correct for those doing the protesting. The election was rigged. Why wouldn't the Wall Street Journal call me to ask whether or not such an offer was made? I would have very quickly told them no, and that would have been the end of the story. Also, one has led to believe that I offered Jamie Dimon the job of Secretary of the Treasury, but that would be one of the he would be very interested in. The problem is I have Scott Bessent doing a fantastic job, a superstar. Why would I give it to Jamie? No such offer was made there or even thought of either. The Wall Street Journal ought to do better fact-checking, or its already strained credibility will continue to dive. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And every step of the way, I don't know where they're getting this information. They're just making it up right now because I guess they lost all their security clearances and they're not being fed information. But it looks like they're trying to drive the public in a certain direction. And Trump, he's shutting them down every step of the way because remember, they're there to protect the Fed. They're there to keep the Fed operational. Remember, they're all part of the same criminal syndicate. Trump now is going against everything the Federal Reserve stands for because the Federal Reserve should have never existed in the first place. Remember, this is the third one in this country. And I do believe at this point in time, as Trump builds the engine, the tariff engine, as it gets stronger and stronger and brings in income into this country, the debt system is going to start to falter. The debt system is going to start to look like something that we should have never had in the first place. The debt system is going to be seen just exactly what it should be seen as, one gigantic credit card. And look what credit cards do to people's lives. It destroys them because it basically keeps them in debt. It keeps them in payments and the interest keeps going up and up and up and you owe more and more and more. And people stress about this every single day. What do you think the central bank system is? It's one gigantic credit card. Why do you think you're making payments every single day? The payments are taxes. Actually, the payments that you make in the credit card company, those are taxes too. Think about it. You're making payments to the Federal Reserve. It's one gigantic credit card company. That's what taxes really are. It's not keeping the government operational. Yes, a very tiny little portion of it is keeping the government operational, but the rest of the payments is all their criminal activity. That's what you're making payments to. So let's get rid of it. We don't need it. Let's bring back sound money. And I do believe this is exactly what Trump is doing. It's just a matter of time. And you can see the Fed is now panicking. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
Okay, we got X2 done. We got Billy done. I got a couple 10-minute ones, and then 4 or 2 Nick videos still to come. This next one is Trish. McDonald's.
It looks like you, at least.
This unbelievable video coming out of Minneapolis right now. This was at a Minneapolis McDonald's, and we had talked earlier. Remember when I showed you the sign that they said no ice? Apparently it was in reaction to this video that I'm about to show you, because this was the initial moment when they had this sort of altercation, if you would, between the security guard at McDonald's and the actual ICE officers that had come in to maybe just get some lunch. And then it kind of exploded into something I want to share with you right now. Let's go to it.
You got to, well, you get up out of here, bro. Y'all get up out of here. Man, y'all, this is private property, though. Yes, it is. This is private property, bro. Real shit. Real shit. Oh, with all the bullshit. I got people. Yeah. I'm with her. Yeah, if you're not placing no order, you gotta go. Can y'all please leave the
So it's hard to understand a lot of that. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you for that. Thank you. Apple Podcasts. But you can see I put some transcriptions. What did you say? Yeah, I got it. And so it gets worse and worse, and they kind of, at that point, decide that they need to take things to a higher level, right? That's when they start asking for the manager. And there's a lot of obscenities that are coming out of the mouth of the security guard, which we took out for you. Thank you very much. And they're like saying, hey, can we just go talk to the manager now? Because they're getting kicked out for no reason. Okay, so a few more obscenities in there. They're not able to talk to the manager because this guy, this security guard, which by the way, the community is like holding up on a giant platform, like he's some kind of fantastic savior. I don't think McDonald's feels that way. I really don't think they feel that way, because they don't want this kind of stuff going on. They don't want these sanctuary city rules that are going to apply now to what every single McDonald's that's in a sanctuary city. That's what you risk here. Okay. That's what you risk, but you also risk the reality of a boycott. Now, the local papers love this guy. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I want you to remember what transpired, because eventually what happened was the company hired some more, I don't know, sophisticated, shall we say. I mean, they had like fancier uniforms and they stood outside and they didn't riddle their vocabulary with a bunch of swear words. So they tried to get their act together, but that actually just created more of a commotion. You may have seen this. I played this on the short feed. I played it in yesterday's show, but what I just showed you is the original problem. Here we go. Really?
In this McDonald's in Minneapolis, there's a sign on the door that says ice is not allowed. We couldn't help but notice there's a sign that says no ice on the door.
Yeah, just to let you know, at the end of the day, this is private property. So you can't just break the law because you're a federal agent. It's like coming into your house or coming to any other restaurant. There's rules. So
Did the manager put that on the door? How did that get there?
I'm not sure, but it's there.
Oh, that's not good for McDonald's. I could see this becoming a Bud Light situation rather quickly. And it would be a shame, given that the president likes those fries so much. Aha. So they're learning the hard way that we conservatives really do have a voice, right? So again, I just want to point out that the community loved this. They thought this was fantastic. They're touting him. They're like, oh, when ICE showed up, they saw red. Red Wooten is his name. And he stood up to those ICE security guards 10 toes down, whatever that is supposed to significant.
Michael 8:30.
Turn heads in the totally redesigned Subaru Outback.
Here's the article. Again, you're looking at some of the video there. It says, when they confronted Red Wooten's security guard and Northsider greeted the two agents at the front door and blocked them from going behind the counter, they in fact saw the red in their eyes. The standoff with agents happened, of course, this week, just a couple of days ago after the killing of Hood, and you had Wooten's refusal to comply with ICE being captured on video and then posted to Facebook. So that's what's just come out. This is what I'm showing you. The agents, they say in their interpretation of this, tried everything they could to intimidate the guards, but he said, you can't come back here, bro. This is when they tried to get back at that point to speak to a manager. So they were walking around and they said, you can't get back here. And they said, look, I'm just trying to talk to your manager. No, you're talking to security. I'm in charge. And that's what you heard him shouting out over and over and over again. I'm in charge. He basically is pretty proud of this. He said, I was doing my job like I'm supposed to do. And the local community is very proud of him. The McDonald's store owner who's quoted in this, Justin Baylor, said that Wooten acted responsibly. Following the incident, his store posted that sign that I showed you that prohibits ICE and other law enforcement from entering without a proper judicial warrant. Quote, I know the Minneapolis police officers, but I don't know whether or not the vests among ICE agents are real or not. This was the best judgment call in the moment. Well, I'll tell you, it's a judgment call that has corporate pretty upset because it's got you guys pretty upset. Don't forget, even Ted Cruz was upset. Ted Cruz is saying, hey, McDonald's, Are you really okay with this brazen anti-law enforcement bias? Again, look at the sign. No ICE access in this business. Notice to all law enforcement, immigration, and agents. Basically, you can't come in unless you have a warrant. And if you have a warrant, you have to call ahead of time and speak to someone. So you're not even able to go get your lunch? That's what it's come to? I mean, you wouldn't believe the harassment. I've got some video I want to show you of the harassment that's going on there of these ICE officers. I guess they just figure if they can make their life so miserable, maybe they'll finally leave Minneapolis for good. Oh, I got news for them. That's not going to happen. And the administration is not going to allow this to happen. But you guys are like, I'm not going to eat at McDonald's again, over and over and over again. I keep saying this. I will never eat a Big Mac again. I don't like McDonald's anyway. This basically has done it. Or some of you are saying, like, I haven't eaten this stuff in years, and I'm definitely not going to start now. McDonald's came out and issued a statement. Here we go to Newsweek, saying that they were in touch with the owner-operator of this franchise restaurant and have confirmed that this flyer was posted without approval and has since been taken down. So this brings up the question, can you really do that? Right? Can you really do that if you are McDonald's? And, does a private business basically have the ability to say, ICE, you're not coming in? What I'm going to tell you is, no, they can't say that into the public areas because they're a public business. And whether they're a franchise or not, they can't just say, I'm not going to have any federal employees come in. That's actually against the law. Now, they can say, we're not going to allow you back into the kitchen area or to any of the private areas or into our offices without some kind of judicial warrant. So that could be allowed. But you can't say, you guys aren't even coming in. They're perfectly allowed to come in to the public areas and to post something outside saying you're not allowed in. That is against the law. And so this is why it's catching the attention, for example, of Ted Cruz and a lot of other people, including corporate and McDonald's. It's like, whoa, we don't want to invite the wrath of all these conservatives. We know what they did to Bud Light. And hey, I thought we had them on our side because the president seems to like his fries and his Big Mac, right? So this is now becoming a bigger and bigger issue, but it goes back to just everything that's happening right now. Like if there are people that are illegally in McDonald's, like in the front area, in the lobby, guess what? ICE actually has the ability to go in, believe it or not, because they are the federal government, and arrest them. I mean, that's my interpretation of the law. Let's go to Tom Homans.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review. Inspector General Costello, one last thing. Is there
No, she basically got taken down, I'd say, pretty badly. Because, yeah, you know, if you're doing something and you get arrested for it, and it turns out you're here illegally, oh, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. And I realize that not a lot of people in Minneapolis want to admit this right now. A lot of people in San Francisco don't want to admit this, or Los Angeles, or New York, or Chicago, or anywhere else, or anybody that happens to live in a lefty place that is a member of the left. They don't want to admit reality. And I go back to the reality that, hey, Barack Obama deported more illegals than any other president in history. So how do you like that until about now?
Okay. Running down. Yeah, Michelle, Trisha has been coming out with some good intel. I'm going to play 2 more videos. I got a second one. Trish has one from CBS New Anchor. She had over 2,000 views on it. I don't think I played it. I don't know if I did or not, because it's today. And then Nick has a big one. So we'll get these last 2 in.
Over, I don't think you get much work. On top of that, you get an audience that's actually not really into you trying new things. I mean, I hate to break it to you, Barry, but the CBS Evening News audience is an audience that actually is not going to be watching the Trish Regan show over here on YouTube. They're an audience that is not even watching cable. Like, I mean it. I used to wonder when I worked there, like, who actually watches this? Really and truly, I think I was recognized once in my life. And they, at that time, had 7 million viewers. It's now since plummeted to 4. Now I'm on YouTube and, like, you know, people are stopping me at the airport and blah, blah. It's not about me, by the way. It's not about me. And you'll see why I'm going to say that in a second, because Barry apparently does think it's all about her. And the whole team there at CBS, they want to be the news. They're becoming the news in kind of a bad way. But I make this point only because it's not that accessible to people, or maybe only to a certain clientele, and that clientele, that viewer does not like change. So good luck, Barry. You can't change this. It's 22 minutes of dribble drabble that's all scripted out. And by the way, you're learning this because you're part of the scripting process. I understand. Yeah, we're going to see how that went not so well last week.
There's another good
for
one,
goodness
right,
sakes, they're even
Michelle?
making fun of her
And
on
this
her
one's
own
big
award show at
too.
the Golden Globes, where they were saying this
Yeah,
is
2,000 mics for
C
views. I don't know.
like you get to see BS, as in BS News. I thought that was a good one. Apparently that didn't get okayed by management. CBS Evening News Variety writes, under the new anchor, God help me if I can pronounce his name, Tony DeCopil. We're going to go with that. I'd never seen him up until like this whole thing is down 23% in viewership compared to the same period a year ago. The decline underscores the challenge, the big challenge facing Barry Weiss, the new editor-in-chief. You can see that the New York Times is getting in on this too. See, the media loves to pick on other members of the media. And let's just say the New York Times is like loving this because what's happening? Well, CBS is leaking like a freaking sieve. everybody over at CBS News is annoyed that Barry's in. They're annoyed that she's making so much money, of course, because she just came in for $150 million and they bought out her free press and they think that she's the answer to everything. And they're like, no. You don't understand. We're the answer. Okay, we know how it's done. Here at 60 Minutes, we've done it the same way since 1950 something, and we're not changing. Okay, we went to color TV. That's about it. I'm telling you, even Walter Cronkite might have embraced just a little bit more change, but no, they don't want any of it. So as a result of this, they're down 23% and counting. In fact, I think the latest and greatest out of the not the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. Oh, they're all the same. What can we say, right? Especially these days, the Wall Street Journal used to be a little bit better. Now it's turning into the New York Times. Anyway, they're saying like down 28%. So it's not good. It's not good at all. By the way, if you are tuning into this, make sure you subscribe. I got to tell you, my own producer who watches this show live in real time out in California, I got a couple of producers, one in Florida. That's a good place to live. I always tell them, better tax environment. And my producer in California, he actually said to me yesterday, even though he watches the show every single day live, that he wasn't getting his announcements, like his alerts saying I was live. And so many of you guys have said that to me in the chat. So I actually wanted to just flag that. He asked me that I flag that for you. I may wind up flagging it for you a couple of times here because it's important that you actually subscribe and that you hit all notifications. And even if you have subscribed before, I'm going to show you what happened. I know we're doing a little diversion here away from one CBS Evening News, but can you guys see that? Okay, so this is what he sent me yesterday. He's like, Trish, look at this. He said, I am subscribed to all of your alerts, and look at that. The bell was off, so he wasn't alerted. So just heads up, make sure if you haven't subscribed, go back and subscribe again. It helps. Anyway, back to CBS where nobody's subscribed, nobody's watching. We need to be the news. That was Barry Weiss's line. And they're saying, inside Barry Weiss's very bumpy revamp at CBS, it's not much of a revamp. Apparently, Norah O'Donnell was pulling a bigger number than this guy. Meanwhile, Barry's like, tooling with the script right before air, which I just got to say, like, you know what? Thank goodness I'm over here because we don't got no scripts over here. You know what? This is all live. I don't have to follow any rules, any scripts. I don't have to read somebody else's story. I get to go to whatever story I want to go to whenever I want to go to it. Unlike poor Tony who told us he went on some like big nationwide tour and was like, I'm going to be your voice. I'm here working for you. No, he's working for Barry and the producers. They're calling the shots. Watch. First night.
All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill. Well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly. First day, big problems here. All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill. Well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly. First day, big problems here. Are we going to Kelly here, or are we going to go to Jonah Kaplan?
Oh.
We're doing Mark Kelly, possibly demoted from his retired rank of captain in the Navy. Now we go to Minnesota. A surprise announcement from the...
Okay. That's a rough one, right? Your first night out. He's actually quite a pro because, and Cat Crazy Sam, thank you for the super chat. I just saw that right there. Much appreciated. We have a very interactive show here on the Trish Regan Show. They can't do that on CBS Evening News either. But you know what? It's kind of interesting, right? Because it gives you this glimpse. What we just saw there with Tony is that you see that he's actually not in charge. He's like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Help, help, help. The teleprompter went down. What am I going to do? Where's Barry when you need her? Why was she futzing with the script? That was what also came out of the New York Times article. They said Barry was messing around, and this is what got picked up by the trade publications, media, one of those trade publications. Nasty little thing it is. Anyway, Barry Weiss helped cause Tony the Copel's viral teleprompter gaffed by tinkering with the script minutes before the CBS debut. So you see what's going on. I don't know if she did or she didn't. I don't know if somebody there kind of wanted to tinker with the prompter, him or herself, right? Because somebody else is running that. And did somebody, I mean, I'm not suggesting it was sabotage, but You know, like this is, I'll tell you, if you've got a prompter, you kind of want to own that prompter yourself. You want to run the prompter yourself. Or what I learned in my career, and I learned this early on because in the very beginning of my career, there was this woman who was kind of disagreeable, and she used to run the prompter. And she was another anchor. Oh, you definitely don't want that, right? Another anchor running your prompter. And I learned very early in my tenure there, this was at Bloomberg, that I really needed to know my stuff, because chances were she just didn't care enough to actually stay with me on the prompter. Or, by the way, like, and in her defense, she shouldn't have had to do that. Or, maybe she just didn't feel like it. And maybe she kind of wanted to stick it to me on one day or another. I said, I'm not going to take this chance. I'm going to know my script inside and out. I'm going to know everything I'm talking about, because I just don't want to be there with that kind of risk. Unfortunately for him, he didn't know where he was going. He was waiting for the producers to call the shots. And you never want to be in that position, right? Because you want to know. Even at Fox, I'll tell you, I wouldn't have been in that position, because I would have been saying, we go here. We go here, we go here. It is, at least my show at Fox was very producer supportive and talent, as they call you if you're on camera, the talent, in talent led. So when the talent's leading the show, they're telling the producers what to do, as opposed to the producers telling the talent what to do. Do you understand the distinction? And so the distinction is also really important when you come over to here, and you're over in YouTube land and we're streaming, and anything can happen. And by the way, let me just say, if you've been watching this show, anything does happen. Leslie can tell you this. I'm looking to see if she's in the chat today. Leslie can tell you this, because occasionally the mic's gone down. Heck, I've even had the camera go down. And people keep saying to me, well, why do you do it live still? And I'm like, I just like it. I like the energy of live, and I like seeing all you guys here. And apologies for being late. We had a ton of elements to get in, and we underestimated the amount of time it would take to get all these things in. We as in me. So this is what you see is what you get. And, if there's a teleprompter gaffe, well, there'll never be a teleprompter gaffe, but there could be some other kind of gaffe. And you guys are great and you're super forgiving. But apparently the CBS News is not so forgiving an audience, and certainly not so forgiving a newsroom. So what happened was that in the rush before airtime, she allegedly was in there tinkering with the script. And according to the New York Times, Tony, I'm going to skip the last name because I don't want to mutilate it, was flummoxed when he encountered the same words twice. Yeah. Like, wait a second, didn't I just read that? And he asked his producers out loud which segment he was supposed to turn to next, right? Are we going to Kelly? Are we doing this? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And it wasn't a good look. So the Daily Signal has an interesting report out today. This is their headline. And they're saying, if the old guard destroys Barry Weiss, legacy media may finally die. Woohoo! Okay. So, and believe me, they will. They will destroy her. Look at what's going on at 60 Minutes. By the way, I like Sharon. She's someone who would benefit tremendously from being on a different kind of platform where you're not like wrapped up in a bunch of, tightly wound tourniquets, which is what it's like. Just the way they speak, right? In tonight's evening news broadcast, it's like, come on, guys, get it out, get it out, get it out. But they want you to speak slowly, maybe for the audience so that they can, hang on to every word. I don't know, but gosh, you only have 22 minutes in the evening news anyway. You got to speed it up so you can get some more content in there, right? You get like a minute 30. I've told you this story before, maybe a 10-second tag. God help you if you went 12 seconds. This was always my problem. Trish, stated time. I have a lot to say. What can I say? I'm trying to speak as quickly as I can. Okay. All right. But it's very tightly wound. And look, it's just the product of what it is, right? They've got 22 minutes of news. They got 8 minutes of commercials. They get a sandwich into a 30-minute long show. So where is the market for that anymore? I guess they still have a market. They still have like 4 million people watching, but it's nothing compared to NBC and ABC, who have like 7 million and 8 million. I was kind of shocked by that. But back in my day, we had like 7 million on CBS Evening News, and we had, I want to say, 11 million on our competitors. So what are they doing at CBS? David Ellison is trying to reinvigorate this, trying to reimagine this. But you're running into a resistance both within the newsroom, right? All the sort of old cronies that have been there forever, and kind of like the way things are. I mentioned Sharon before. She's one of the, she's young. I mean, because if she's in her 50s, the other woman on the show is in her 80s. So, hey, you're like the kid. You feel really good when you're walking around at CBS because you're like, damn, I'm young. Like, this feels really, really good because everybody else is almost twice my age. So there's that. But like, she's a great example of somebody who's got a ton of personality, but you don't necessarily see that on camera. I would say that when I was reporting there, and even when I was reporting in other venues, you didn't always get to see my personality because you are sort of pigeonholed into this. Okay, here's the prompter. Here's the script. This is what we're doing. And so I think in my last gig, you probably saw a little bit more of that personality come out, but personality can get you in trouble now and then. As I've learned, because I just call it like I see it. So this is very freeing and this is very different. But how do you take what we're doing here, right, and you put it into an institution like CBS? I don't think she can.
Last one.
I don't think she can do it. I've said this for a while. I think she's just biting off more than she can chew. Nikki Glaser making fun of her at the Golden Globes the other night, which apparently, according to the New York Post, that particular joke never got approved by management, I'm sure, because I think David Ellison was in the audience. Remember, Ellison, his dad is a big deal. He's Larry Ellison.
A lot of news.
And Ellison had Skydance, and he went out and bought Paramount, Paramount being the parent company of CBS. And everybody's mad because Barry has a reputation for maybe being a little bit more centrist, right? She's not like a Looney Tune lib. And so they brought in somebody who has worked in print. By the way, that's hard too. She hasn't worked in TV, so she doesn't know the massive egos she's dealing with in TV, even on the producer front. I mean, you got talent, and they're like a whole special little breed onto themselves. And then you get the producers, and none of them are like print. Like, print are the nicest people in general. I mean, except for some. Lately, it's gotten kind of nasty. But for the most part, they're very like humble, and that's not the case, dare I say, in television. And so she's coming from print, and she's managed print journalists, granted, opinion, editorial type people. So there's a little bit more ego there, but it's just not the same as the ego that you're running into when you get into the CBS News land and television land. So she's got a lot on her plate. Nikki Glaser, again, taking a stab at CBS, calling it CBS News. And that's what it feels like, right? It's a bunch of BS, ladies and gentlemen. Gosh, I spent a lot of time on this story. I just know a lot about it. I guess that's the bottom line. And I think to myself, back in those days when, we as correspondents in the Northeast Bureau, and I think Jim Acosta was there when I was there, and Sharon was there as well. And everybody was a little bit more normal back then, I guess. That was pre-Trump. And we would, sit around, and some of them would have these things called YouTube videos. And I'd be like, huh? What? Like, what is that? And like, they'd be watching the cat memes or something, and they thought it was this. And I'm like, what is it? Like, so to me, YouTube was sort of synonymous with something else entirely, which was like you were somebody broadcasting from your parents' basement on like public access TV, or you were like producing cat memes. I had no idea what it was. If somebody had told me, I wish I knew way back when what this was about to become, and sort of how. And my husband used to actually tell me, he'd say, content, Trish, you're always going to be fine because you understand content. You love content. You're all about content. The mechanism by which this content will be delivered will always change. But as long as you understand the value of the content itself, you should be fine. And this industry will keep changing. And I never quite fully appreciated that. Wise man, he is, my husband, never fully appreciated that until I was then out on my own. And it's really, really true, because look at what we've been able to build. I look at my little channel here, and I'll go and check the numbers actually in real time, because I can see these things on something called vidIQ, which is an app that allows you to track things like your competitors. And what I see over and over again is that we are doing mountains more in terms of viewership than our competitors at these mainstream media broadcasts. I mean, just little me, Trish Regan, which is kind of incredible, right? When you think about that, guys. And I say that not to tout my own horn, but to just sort of inform you of all these changes that are going on within the industry. And I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time because I am doing this live as we speak. But let me just look at this. If I look at the competitors and I say, okay, we're up against, say, oh gosh, I don't know, my own former employer, Fox Business.
Life is beautiful and fragile. We fall.
This feels good. All right. They get 3.3 million subs. They did 51.6 million views in the last 28 days. Trish Regan, we got 1.2 million subs. We did 96.8 million views. How do you like that in the last 28 days? Let's go to CBS News. CBS News with their $150 million lady and their giant staff, 48.6 million views. Trish Regan, 96.8 million views. And that's CBS News having 7 million subs. Okay. So they get 7 times the amount of subs basically that I have right here. I mean, it's really remarkable. CNBC, which I used to work for, and that's kind of a niche, they've got 13.1 million views despite a 4.1 million sub base. So what does it tell you? It tells you that people want a little personality and a little opinion and a little pizzazz, and they don't have any of it at these networks. And so they are done, finito. We are watching the end of the network news as you know it, my friends. Good times. Hey, quick shout out to my company. We've got a new estimate that's come out of the Atlanta Fed, 5.4% estimate on GDP growth for the last quarter. I'm telling you, we got great stuff going on. 2.7% inflation that came out just yesterday, 2.6% on the core. All of this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I want to encourage you to go take a look at my company. It's called 76 Research, 76research.com. You can use code word dollar if you want to get the 76 report for just $1 a month for the first 2 months.
Okay. All right. We made it through today. A lot of intel. I got one more. Finish off.
On an absolute tirade right now. I've been following for the past 24 hours, and he is issuing warning after warning after warning to his 232 million followers about the importance of the Republicans right now in Congress nuking the filibuster in order to pass meaningful legislation to secure our elections and many other things, or else the Democrats are inevitably going to take back power. And he's raising awareness of the things that they are going to do if that does take place. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to walk you through a series of posts from Elon Musk, as he is absolutely 100% correct. This is exactly what's going to happen if the Democrats regain power. And that's why it's on us to demand from our feckless, ballless, spineless Republicans to nuke the filibuster and do what has to be done to secure our elections. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with this one. So this is what this is not the first post. It's actually one of the later posts in the series. But it's really important that we get this straight right up front. This is why the Republicans will not nuke the filibuster. And he's sharing this post from Sadie NC and says it's true. She says the reason Republicans won't abolish the filibuster is that it gives them an excuse to block President Trump's agenda without admitting they're siding with Democrats. Between 6 and 12 Republican senators refuse to budge. The number of backstabbers in Congress is truly troubling. They need to be called out and removed, starting with Thune. And I got to say, I'm so glad that he is posting this to his massive audience, because it's so obvious to me, but it doesn't appear to be obvious to everybody out there that the Republicans, it goes back to the saying, it's two wings of the same bird. The Republicans pretend to be fighting for the people, and the Democrats stab them in the back, and they do things like shutting down the government. They do whatever they can to block meaningful legislation, and the Republicans allow them to do it. This is their scapegoat. This is their way of doing nothing, being spineless, feckless, ineffective, and then saying, well, we can't pass the SAVE Act. We can't do anything meaningful because of the filibuster. The Democrats are just going to block it. So that's why we are feckless, spineless cowards. It is a total scapegoat. And these Republicans that won't abolish the filibuster They don't want to do it because it's their shield. It's their cover. It's what allows them to be essentially Democrats without the label, without the name. And so he's sharing this, and it's so important that people understand this as to the motive of why the Republicans won't just do what Trump is saying and nuke the filibuster. They can sit there and claim that it's because they don't want retaliation in the future, but it has nothing to do with that. It has absolutely everything to do with the fact that it is their shield and their scapegoat to allow the Democrats to sabotage Trump, because that's what they want. Now, let's go to this next post. This is what the Democrats want to do if they regain power. And we already know this, but again, Elon is sharing this to 232 million people who don't really understand the implications of this problem. But the Democrats want to pack SCOTUS. That would end in disaster. We can't let them cheat to win elections. Yes, the Democrats want to pack SCOTUS. That goes without saying. They've talked about it. They want to do it. And that is one of the first things they will do if they regain power, is pack SCOTUS. And the fact that Trump was able to appoint 3 SCOTUS justices, and the fact that we have a conservative majority at SCOTUS, has been the absolute biggest roadblock to the radical left absolutely steamrolling the country. Because imagine if you had a SCOTUS, these lower court, these judicial judges, and even the appellate judges in some of the circuits. Imagine if we had a SCOTUS that actually agreed with these radical Marxist judges on the lower courts when they block every single thing that Trump does. Oftentimes, I believe Trump has like a 96% win rate with the SCOTUS, and that is because the SCOTUS actually believe in the Constitution. The majority does. Imagine if you had, 9 more Ketanji Brown Jacksons. The country would collapse in a year. So that is 100% something they plan to do if they ever have the opportunity. Now, the next thing, he shares this interview with Sri Thanadar, who I can't believe is an actual real person, but this is an actual real person, Sri Thanadar, and he's on Fox News. Elon Musk is saying, as I was just saying, the Dems won't even deport extreme criminals because they will lose that probable voter.
Sir, you voted against the bill that mandated the deportation of illegals convicted of sex crimes. Do you regret that vote now?
No, I don't regret that vote. Look, no bill is perfect, and many times.
What if it was your wife, your sister, your daughter that was raped? That's a sex crime. You want that person to stay?
Look, there are multiple things in a bill. I don't agree with every one of them.
Sir, you got to answer the question. If your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, mother was raped by an illegal immigrant, you voted against the bill that would deport these illegals convicted of sex crimes. You're perfectly fine if they stay in the country.
I started a business to give old clothes a new life, and Chase has supported me from the beginning.
Sean, look, I serve in Congress. I don't think you ever
That's what
served
you
in
voted
Congress.
on, though, right?
Most of the bills. Look.
Why
most
did
of
you
these
vote for
bills
that?
are not perfect
Why
bills.
did you vote
There's not
for
a-
that? Why would you allow sex crime convicts to stay in the country that entered the country illegally? Why would you vote for that?
It was not, the bill did not just include that issue. There were other things in the bill. And so I cannot pick and choose. I don't have a veto where I can strike out one portion
So
of
you
a
would
bill.
have voted against it otherwise? What was the big provision that prevented you from kicking these people out of our country?
Look, I don't memorize. I vote on thousands
I don't
of bills.
memorize. You don't know
but
anything.
Look, I do believe.
This guy can't even say that, yes, I think we should deport a guy that just raped my mother or my sister. This is the level of insanity that has encapsulated the Democrat Party. They cannot draw a line anywhere, because then you're going to start asking questions. Well, if we should deport this guy, why not this guy? And ultimately, you realize that anybody that crosses the border illegally is a criminal. So you have to deport them all. They can't draw a line in the sand. So these people, they want any and every extreme criminal, drug cartel. It doesn't matter if they're affiliated with Al-Qaeda. It doesn't matter to them because, we're on stolen land, everybody. That's their messaging. You see these protesters with the signs saying, you can't be illegal on stolen land. That is the Democrats' messaging and platform at this point. Now, here's Elon Musk reminding us all what Hakeem Jeffrey said after the Tish James indictment about how if the Democrats regain power, they're essentially going to arrest everybody.
So there's two things to keep in mind here. First of all, there's accountability for the corruption and the chaos that Donald Trump has unleashed on the American people from the very beginning of his presidency on January 20th that should be tied directly to the Supreme Court and the 6 right-wing justices who basically gave Donald Trump, without justification, blanket immunity. And he's been out of control ever since. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, of course, is the fact that there are so many different corrupt sycophants within the Trump administration, including but not limited to within the Department of Justice. Now, these people don't have immunity. And the reality is the statute of limitations is 5 years, and there will be accountability with the next administration, if not before, when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
So he's telling us all that everybody that doesn't have immunity from the Supreme Court, barring Trump, they are coming for everybody. And that includes you and me. I'm telling you, think about it now. If the Democrats win the next election cycle, they are going to do all the things we're telling the Republicans they need to do, nuking the filibuster, packing the Supreme Court. They are going to secure their cheating apparatus forever, and they are going to arrest us all. They're going to start coming after big tech to censor again. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And essentially what Elon Musk is doing is pleading with the people to demand from the Republicans to nuke the filibuster, pass the SAVE Act, secure our elections, or else we will never, ever win another election again. Because as soon as the Democrats regain power, they are going on a retribution tour like you've never seen before in your life. And we cannot allow that to happen, or we are all screwed. The fate of the nation truly is at stake. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of us need to be demanding from the Republican Party to nuke the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act before it's too late. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the very least, Elon Musk is raising awareness of all this to his 232.4 million followers. So that does give me a little bit of encouragement that the public at least is going to know what needs to be done. But can we twist the arm and force the issue of the spineless Republican Party? We'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to see how loud the people get. But ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make this video just a...
Okay, that was a very important one to end the show. Quite a show tonight. A lot of good stuff, important stuff. And we had 2 big ones today. Thanks for coming and helping tonight, Michelle, okay, and Tim and Lucy. God bless everybody. Please hit the like and make sure you go to the description box and sub to the backup channels. Everybody have a good work week. We'll see how things develop this week. I don't know. It's just another week. See what happens. So, God bless. Stay safe. Stay strong. Keep the faith. And never give up. Signing off till tomorrow evening if something else happens. Martin Luther King Day tomorrow. Signing off, Chico and Dude. Yep, Lori, everybody. You guys.